thank God it's Friday. It's the first of its kind in 2020. Happy New Year to you yet again. The year's already 3 days old, so I hope that you're coming out of the euphoria and setting agenda as well as hitting the nail on the head. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Welcome to the show. We're setting agenda for the new year, vis-a-vis some of the very interesting developments we've seen already in the first few days of the new year. And also we're going to be touching on some of the mentions that made the news when Mr. President talked to Nigerians on the very first day of the new year. I'm joined by Sheyi Adeyemo, a publisher and public affairs analyst. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Nifemi.
And thank you for coming again.
Thank you for having me.
Yemi Makwadero is strategy and governance expert. It's good to have you here. Happy New Year.
My pleasure. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to our viewers.
I think this has become our favorite pairing, so perhaps we'll have more of it in the new year.
Okay. We'll look forward to it.
So what happened to the weather? We thought that Hamatan wasn't going to show up, especially in Lagos. And then we woke up this morning and everywhere is terribly cold. Perhaps nature is telling us that we should stay back for some holiday.
Well, I guess that's why a lot of people are not back in their offices. Still suffering. But the Hamadan has always been there in some other parts of the country.
That's right.
Yeah, but because, maybe industrialization and so on has affected the climate, around here. But it's a pleasant feeling, yeah.
So we covered the story of work resumption across the country yesterday. Some people started out worshiping, praying to God. In some parts of the country, it was neither here or there. Some people just did not resume. And then it reminds me of, what we used to call the New Year resolution. What do you expect of the civil service, especially Nigerian workers this new year, when it comes to the attitude to work?
So I think usually, and that is something that I want us to be very serious about in this year. I'm hoping that that's what will happen. Leadership. So usually we do not set ground rules, and that's why people do the things they do. Look, there's no way in the world if the leadership had insisted and put everything in place to ensure people clocking. I mean, TVC and the rest of mass communication outfit all over the world work on Christmas Day, worked on the 1st. So it wasn't something you would think that you would want to shut down because so it's Christmas Day. So what will happen to your audiences at home? But when we create an opening, everybody, the natural human being, I say to people all the time, the natural thing is I don't want to wake up this morning, I just want to sleep, and be rich and be home. It's the natural. But when you realize that you need to work to eat, you will come out. So those are things we need to understand and start working it early. Let us realize that 1, 2, 3 days that we decide to take out would have an effect on the final result that we'll have later. Economics and all of the things we do in life are calculated per day. Nobody would excuse you for shutting a particular ministry, a particular machinery, a thing down for a whole day because you feel that you should rest. People worked yesterday, I worked yesterday, and people should start to think in that manner, or else we're probably going to keep getting the same result because we have continued to do everything we do the same way all of this years.
We'll talk about the finest economies in the world, how China has evolved, Singapore, how we took palm oil from Nigeria and it's now contending as a first world country. But then when you read their history, it's all about attitude to work. I mean, it's nation building, and it wasn't just about leadership providing direction. It was also the people buying into the vision and putting their heart out, investing their time and energy into building such countries. The challenge here isn't really with the people. I think it is with the system under which they operate. So as much as I did not want to come on Christmas Day, but then there was no way I couldn't have come because, like you said, I have to clock in and then I have to be paid for the job that I do. But why haven't we been able to transfer this culture of hard work and diligence to the public sector?
Well, essentially because in the private sector, everybody knows from day one that the pure motive in the private sector is profit. Have we defined what public service is all about in Nigeria? There are those who see public service as a place to while away the time while you decide on what to do. Some see it as a place where you can amass wealth. Some see it as a place where you can start to build a political career. How many people see it as service to the nation, service to people? Because, I mean, there are public goods and there are business goods. The businesses, the private sector deals with the business goods. The public sector produces the public goods. And more often than not, the efficiency and effectiveness with which public goods are produced has implications for the economy as a whole.
That's right.
And even the private sector. So the issue of our work ethics actually needs to be, we were not like this. I mean, we were not like this. So it's not really a cultural thing with us. It's not a traditional thing with us to be lazy, to prevaricate, to procrastinate. Because people knew they had to plant at a particular time back then for them to harvest something.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter the number of hours you put into something late on, you will not get the result. So you have to do it at the right time. But in the public sector, we have continued to see this downward trend. And I think going forward, like you said, I think the structure is there. I mean, the public holidays were clearly, declared. But why don't people get to work? Because they don't see that the hour they put into work has implication for the entire system.
Absolutely.
They think it's just a walk in the park, going to the office. Their reward system is not tied to productivity. And so until we begin to do that, check some of the public sector organizations which has been insulated from the general public service rules, who are running like corporations, like businesses. There is a higher level of productivity there.
Yeah.
Look at the revenue services all over the country. Yeah. Some of them have, some other incentives attached to targets. And so they go all the way to make sure that they meet their targets. So unless we make our public sector, the reward system attached to productivity, we'll continue to have what we're presenting.
But the challenge has also been that when government takes a position to sanitize the public sector, the reaction is always not pleasant. Recall in Kaduna when the state governor started poke-nosing into the education affair, concerned about the qualification of teachers, and was ready to let go thousands of people. The outcry was mad. In Edo State, I recall that when the comrade was governor, there was a teacher who could not even read a complete sentence. So how do we sanitize this sector without, because the governor also will be thinking that there will come a time that I'll be seeking a second term. And then this particular decision might just work against me. Which way out?
No, so because we don't see it as a corporate essence. Now, in the 2020 plan, what's that thing? 2020?
Vision 2020.
Yes, Vision 2020.
You will discover that in the middle of it was the MDAs, the ministry, the department, and the agencies. Now, most often when we talk about it theoretically, but we do not understand that the act and functionality, efficiency, and success of everything that we do, those people are in the center of it. And if you do not make sure that they work at a level of efficiency and effectiveness, nothing would eventually work. When you talk about executives, it is not Mr. President or Mr. Governor that are actually the executives. The politicians are not the executives. The people who are in the ministry, the civil servants that we're talking about, are the executives. When you have a nation like ours, that we feel that our second class, our third class citizens are the people who ought to be in ministry, then we're joking. Look, I believe, and we must be clear about this, and I'm very, very passionate about it, the remuneration and the things we give to our civil servant is, for me, a plan to fail. Whatever we have to do, let us go and copy it from anywhere else in the world. How do people remunerate people who actually execute and deliver on the frameworks we put in place? It is until we are ready to do that. Look, if TVC decides that, okay, we're going to have all these beautiful equipment and we're going to pay our staffs anyhow, they themselves have decided that whatever happens to those equipment is their business. So we need to say to ourselves, we're going to create policies, we're going to have a laudable vision like Vision 2020. And at the end of the day, those who are meant to execute them, we do not factor their remuneration. Nigerians are the ones who are in MTN. Nigerians are the ones who are in mobile and all of these other places. They are being paid a certain amount. You expect those who are supposed to superintend over them, regulate them, make sure they work. They are paid a very funny amount. Those things, we rarely talk about them. We just see them as, God will help us. How? When we do not take those things seriously from day one. Okay, I want to have a team. How much will I need to remunerate them so that they are working like they take it like they're working in the private sector? I don't know whether I'm allowed to do this, but when Governor Duke became the governor of Cross River State, he said that he wanted to make sure that the tourism became what it is today. What he did was he took the people, took them to Trinidad and Tobago, trained them in a particular way, and gave them a special salary. That is why you have the kind of result that you have today. So if you want result, you must invest into it.
So they call it the new minimum wage year. And we've seen this new wage bill computed already in many of the state government's 2020 budget. He mentioned remuneration. Workers are perhaps going to smile home this year with some increment. Well, with some increment. Prior to this time, we've had this conversation whether or not what workers need is an increment in salary as much as, proper development in structures around them and in other sectors of the economy. But do you see this as a motivation for the civil service this year?
Probably, yes and no. Yes, in the immediate term. I mean, it's a huge leap, really, getting, say, 40% salary raise, no matter what the quantum is. If you are moving from 18 to 30, I mean, it's psychologically, satisfying, and it's like you have more money in your pocket. But for how long will that psychological feeling be there? Probably 3 months, 4 months. It may have implications for the deliverables, but after that, they get used to it. And they begin to see that it's not really what they thought the raise was. But why do we have such abysmally low wage system in the public service? It's simply because there is no efficiency. Look, everyone knows, every governor today knows, every minister, every head of department and agency in Nigeria knows that they probably have 3 or 4 times the kind of staff strength that they require to do what they're currently doing. And that was why some time ago, I think it was in 2002 or thereabout, that the former governor of Lagos State took the bull by the horn to ensure that there is what they call right sizing in the civil service in Lagos. I do not know what the situation is today. It was a hell of a battle at that time between him and Labour. But he knew what he wanted to do, and that is why today, in terms of efficiency, I mean, no other state beats the Lagos State civil service. I'm not saying they are there yet, but there is an element of efficiency that was introduced into it. Targets that, approvals for XYZ should not take more than 1 month. And so everybody that is concerned, with that process ensures that the file leaves their table, appropriately. And so we need to transfer this, to the national level, whereby we really sit down and take a decision. Do we want to have, an overblown workforce in the public service doing so little? Or do we need to right size and be more efficient in our civil service so that people can be properly remunerated? Those who do not fit into the civil service will find something to do along the line also. But there is this political correctness that makes us to continue to bringing people into the public service. I know there is even a disturbing trend, in the last few years. You now find outgoing governors and chief executives, governors of states and chief executives of, departments and agencies of government, populating their service while they are on their way out of the system. And so creating a problem for the person who is coming in. And so the mindset about civil service should emphasize effectiveness and efficiency. Once we're able to do that, it's not going to be a tea party. We must really put our minds to it. And before we came on here, we were trying to look at how some other countries took difficult decisions that got them to where they are today. There are times that a leader will tell the people, look, I'm going to infringe on some of the things you are already used to. They are your entitlement. But if we must get to this destination, we have to really purge ourselves of some of these things, at least for now.
It is an interesting anathema. So on one hand, on the hand of the public sector, we have more people doing the job, but not much is getting done. In the private sector, there are even lesser people doing the job, and it looks like they're getting enough result. But how exactly do we get to a point where we run government like we're running a private business, not minding whose ox is God?
It's the only option. You see, I can say salary, you can say efficiency. The bottom line is we must get the work done. You see, the thing is, we can do whatever we want to do, play politics with whatever else we want to play politics with. But the actual people that will do the job, look, somebody comes into an office, maximum is going to be there for 8 years. There's no way he will know that office like somebody that is a career officer, somebody that will spend 35 years of his life there. How can you be playing with those people? How can you not have a deliberate and clear measure how you would be able to extract efficiency from those people? I don't understand it, because we've continued to play with this we're 60 this year, for all of our lives. And we just rub it on the head, and at the end of the day, we'll come down and say, those civil servants. And I don't understand which civil servant, our own civil servant or another civil servant. Because sometimes the way we act is like we're in a film, and that we could just walk away from it and it is all well. No, this is our life. The civil servants are the actual people that will deliver everything, all the plans, all the things we want done. Those are the people that are going to do it. And if they are the people, they must have the necessary psychological balance. They must have everything they need. They have kids that want to go to school. They have to take care of health. They have to do a lot of things. If we are not ready for them, then we should not have civil service. It is either we have it right or we don't have it at all. It's like having a police team, and you give them guns and you give them everything. At the end of the day, you know that they are not going to deliver, and you still pay them salary. I don't understand it, because sometimes I get confused the way we go about certain things. We had said, these people are not going to do it, but we employ them for them not to do it. Why? That's the question. So in whatever way, whatever needs to be done, whoever we need to go and copy, whoever we need to bring in to make sure that they work efficiently. And I mean everything. There's a certain time a friend of mine decided he was going to go and get a loan. And when he had finished, he wrote everything very nice. The capital, what do you call it, capital agent and all that. The thing they looked for was, where is your salary? He said, no, because it's a new business, he will be managing. They said, no, that's why we're not going to give you this loan, because we know he will fail, because you have not paid yourself. That the most important factor for us is how you are going to be satisfied doing the job. If you don't include that, sorry, sir, we're not going to. So those are clear things. We should not, it's not, percentage, 45% increase. I really don't, I'm not comfortable hearing such things. It is about, can he pay the person? Can the person be comfortable? That is the thing we should be talking about. So, will the person be happy doing the job?
In about 10 months now, we're going to clock 60 years of independence. And that's huge. That's like 40 years short of 100 years. China clocked 70 years since the establishment of its republic, October last year. They call it leadership of communism, a massive show of force. But China is confidently contending now to be perhaps one of the largest economies in the world. So are we looking at a situation where we might need to sit back and ask ourselves very difficult questions, whether this system of government is really working for us? Because in 10 years, the way China is going, China's development is like light years ahead of Nigeria. It doesn't look like we can match up in 10 years. Is there a question of asking ourselves questions, fundamental questions, whether we are actually going to fly running this system of government?
Well, I think the most important question, which I have not shied away from mentioning every time, for any individual or organization, be it private or public, is to determine where am I going. There must be a destination. If you have a destination, you will now decide how long do you want to take to get there. How long will it take you if you go by bike, if you go by car, if you go by air? It might be a far place. You might think, let's go by air. But if there are no airports, you will not be able to go by air. So these are some of the things that will inform what we do. And you see, as strategists, we believe that structure follows strategy. You see, we talk so much of structure in Nigeria. We talk so much of policies, but we do not talk about, the vision, the destination. What exactly do we want to achieve? Now, at some point in Nigeria, you see a group of people talk and say, look, let's just fix infrastructure. Nigeria will move on. Another side will say, oh, let's obey the rule of law. Nigeria will go fine. Some will say, oh, let's do restructuring. But to do what? To achieve what? We have not been able to set that. Almost 60 years after. And sadly so. And until we get that done, you see, I can't come here and prescribe what we need to do because we have not done the diagnosis. So you must do the diagnosis and understand what exactly is the problem. Where are we going? Before we can really say this is a vehicle that can take us there.
He talked about vision. And will it be accurate to say that we did not have a destination in mind? All through the last decade, we were screaming Vision 2020. I mean, it was launched in 2009 under the administration of the late President Musa Yar'Adua. Of course, the idea was initially conceived by former President Obasanjo. Yeah. And we came up, it was a commission of 1,000 experts who came together, drafted a document that had 7 principles. One of it is to make Nigeria one of the 20 largest economies in the world. There was the issue of moving Nigeria from third world country, to an industrialized nation. It is very easy to tell whether we are there or not. So what happened? Did we bite more than what we could chew? Because what they're saying right now is that it will take us another 20 years to actually become one of the top 20.
We can play around numbers if we like. And for me, that's like a waste of time. So I'm not one of those who believe in saying, oh, we're going to do it at so time and all of that. So we had a plan. We had a vision. We said, oh, by 2020, we're going to do this. The problem is, in what vehicle did we put it in? How were we going to deliver it? Because at the end of the day, I mean, we can run away as much as we want from this. The truth of the matter is, some people are the ones who are going to execute you. They must do it committedly. They must do it with their life. Like I will do sleeping in my office morning, afternoon, night, because I know that at the end of the day, that is where I'm going to earn money to feed my family. In the same manner, the guy who works in the civil service, all those who are the drivers, it's like those are the ones that are going to execute it. Look, oh, so I want to execute a war. I bought guns. I have a plan. I have done all of those things. The guys who are going to be at the theater of war, are they driven? Are they the kind of people who, even when they lose their gun, they will cut themselves? We watch films and we take those things for granted. Certain people, they are lost in the bush. They just want to win. They will use everything. They will shoot them. Whether they are joking with it or not, they will sow themselves. The point is, they must win. So those are the kind of soldiers, those are the kind of people that we need in the theater of war. And we're at a war. Because as a people, we're even still dealing with ourselves. Do you know that in this world, as we are right now, our failure is actually the gains of certain people? The more we don't do well, you talked about China. If China coughs, we're in trouble. Because each time, the economic fight and argument between America and China has got a direct bearing on all of us. Brexit is in Europe. Whatever decision they take, it has a bearing on us. So we've not even sorted internal problem. But whether we like it or not, there are external problems that we need to deal with. It is these same people that we will send to go and sign bilateral agreements. There's a story about the Bakassi thing, where for whatever reason we signed Bakassi off. It's because you took somebody who does not even understand what is signing off. But, oh, he's a director, something external affairs, and he's the one that is going to sign our future. We seem to understand that as insignificant as we see these people, they are the ones who take decisions on our behalf that will have bearings on our life forever. Who are they? How are they driven? Are they committed? Are they ones with passion? Will they want to stick their life, or they come back home and their wife is saying, oh, your child is sick and that, and the man is worried? Do you think such a person will really deliver? You see, these are sincere questions that we need to answer. And if we don't deal with it, as far as I'm concerned, we can have the most lofty ideas, most lofty everything. Those who are executing it, who are they? So no matter how stupid, as it were, the vision may be, as long as you have people who will drive it, I'm concerned. I'm not disagreeing with ADME by saying vision is important. It is important. But if you want to sit down and look at all the plenty grammars we have said here in Nigeria, needs, SAP, can you recall those?
I'm just wondering whether it's not too late to be talking about who and who is driving us. But talking about visions, because I actually want to stay there for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. President earlier in the year also painted another vision. According to him, he's saying it's a time of hope, optimism, and fresh opportunities. We look forward as a nation to the 2020s as the opportunity to build on the foundations we have laid together on security, diversification of our economy, and taking on the cause of corruption. For this administration, that's a vision. It was the same vision that they preached when they were contesting election. It is sitting on a tripod, fighting corruption, insecurity, as well as diversifying the economy. Is this a vision that you see coming to fruition in the next 365 days? And is there so much hope and optimism, as well as fresh opportunities, as the president puts it?
Well, I think without disrespect, for me, those don't qualify as national vision. Every organization, every nation must have just one vision.
That transcends administrations or tenors.
An all-time vision. Now, every government or every administration can now have their own agenda within the same global
the context of the vision.
So what we have is that you have an administration giving Nigeria a vision for a period of, national visions are not for a brief period of time. And I make bold to say this. If you call all the 43 or so federal ministers and you give them pen and paper in a classroom environment to write what they understand as a vision of Nigeria, they will start cracking their heads.
So
and at the end of the day,
conceives this vision?
It can be conceived by anyone, but it must be implanted. It must be agreeable and implanted by all. The challenge we have in Nigeria, it's difficult for us to see it. It's looking like it's something abstract, but it is not. What the United States thrives on, for instance, is that in their mind, they want to dominate in every area that they play. If they know they don't have a strength to dominate in a particular area, they just give, passing attention to it. And that is why you will find out that rather than America contesting, United States of America in sports, for instance, contesting to be world champion in football as we know it, they decided to rename football soccer and then created their own football. And whichever team wins the NFL in America is called the world champion. Whoever wins the NBA in America, whichever team wins, is regarded as a world champion. That is what I'm talking about. And so that is what permeates the system. And so until we, as a country, and we missed the opportunity in 2014, I did a memorandum concerning that to the conference. That conference, rather than start determining or deciding on operational issues that can change with time, because environment will make you change certain things. What that conference should have done was to say, look, as a country, this is what we want to be. Let's take the example of becoming the largest economy in 2020. are you aware that even nominally, Nigeria is about number 27?
That's right.
Would you say that's not good performance? What has it translated to? So those are not the kind of things we're talking about.
That's all right.
In terms of the number, we're almost there in terms of size. But what are the developmental issues that we should be addressing?
It is a very important issue you have raised, and when we return from this break, we'll be looking at how feasible it is in a very politically versatile and volatile environment. So if you had done a national confab and it's not every party, at that point there were political parties that were opposed to that concept, and then what is the assurance that the coming administration is going to, especially at the point in time where we have a lot of abandoned projects scattered across the country, because even governors from the same party
don't
refuse to continue projects.
Exactly, because they know that the people will not say no, that's not what we agreed on, because they know.
Let's take a break now,
and they get away with
and
it.
when we return, we'll talk more about these issues as well as open the phone lines for you. Stay with us. Already, and we're setting an agenda, but this time around not only for leadership but for followership as well, because this country absolutely belongs to all of us, and we must all now begin to take responsibility, especially now that we're in 2020, that year that we talked about all the last decade. Sheyi Adeyemo Yemi Makpadirun, thank you for staying the course of the program this morning. So the big question is, what is Nigeria's vision? I mean, we had a national confab in 2014. Do we need to have another? How do you see us coming together to agree as regards a destination that all of us can pursue together?
So I think it's about having someone who is committed and saying, guys, this is where we have to go. And the very most important thing, in my own opinion, which is the second, is sincerity of purpose. Usually when I take us on, and I say, oh, we're going to do this. Guys, we don't have money for television in this house, so let's, manage. And there is this football match, and as the father of the house, I go to the neighbor's house to watch football. What I have done is that I've told my children that they should not believe me, whatever I say. Smoking is not good. So I tell my child, go and buy me a stick of cigarette. And I tell him, don't smoke, oh. What are you telling the child? There was a particular incident. A friend of mine told me that, he noticed that the child was smoking. And I said, yes, because you smoke. He said, but he's a child. I said, no, because you are his...
So you're saying everything rises and falls on
leadership. So you need to sincerely tell us that this is where we're going. And we see it in everything you do. It's simple. When you say, oh, don't do that, and you do the same thing, people will see you. So when people see... what's the Gandhi man's name of India? Is it Indira Gandhi?
Yeah. No, that's the lady.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes, Mahatma Gandhi. He was never president, but he was the father of the nation. And everywhere, and everything he said he was going to do, everybody saw that was where he was going. So when he says he's going on fasting, everybody will be worried, because their father is saying, because of what you have done, I'm going to go on fasting. Tell anybody that you want to go on fire, you better die, because as far as they are concerned, you're even standing in the way. Leadership is about people believing you. Even when you stay in your little corner, they know that something must be wrong with daddy. We cannot afford for him to be like that. It's painful sometimes when we talk about this, because this is our life and we don't have another. And that's what I keep hammering on. The way we treat it most often is like, okay, it's on part-time, maybe it will not affect me. That it will affect us. It is affecting us. We're 60 years. We had said, oh, we're small. We're still young. Why are we comparing ourselves with America? They've been, okay, now that we're 60. A 60-year-old man, is he young or old?
No, well, 60 years is independence. They will say is nascent democracy. That we're just about 20 years thereabout. Let's take Judge's call from IKEJA. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Ifeanyi.
Morning to you.
And greetings to the guests as well.
Good morning, Judge.
We're talking about attitude to work and, agenda setting generally. The man that is working as a civil servant, is not really there because of passion. It is because he has no, better alternative. Nigerians are not lazy people. If we had electricity, for example, many of those people in the civil service, they won't be there. They have the capacity to set up their businesses, make loans available to people, let there be electricity, and basic infrastructure in the economy. You will not see many people in the civil service. So to ask them to change attitude when the purpose of bringing them there really in the first place is not for hard work, how are you going to do it overnight? The job of one person, you employ 5 people for political reasons, and you expect them to be hardworking. It's just not possible. So what I expect the government to do, a government that is championed by somebody that sets examples. Don't tell me to eat local rice when you are eating foreign rice. Do as you want me to do. I will see it in you doing it, and then you will not need to tell me to follow you. It's not enough for us to just be complaining. We have to do something at our individual level. That's the way I see it.
All right. Thank you, George, for calling in. Good morning to you. Let's begin to look at whether we're indeed taking deliberate actions to mentor a new generation with nation building in mind. So you listen to Lee Kuan Yew, and he would tell you how they deliberately sent the brightest minds to the UK to train in certain areas, and then you come back and you are compelled to work for government for a number of years, such that the knowledge you have acquired from the developed country, you pass it over. I mean, it was a deliberate attempt to train the younger generation, and long after I left office, I think after about 3 decades, it was still very much involved in that nation building. How much work do you think we're doing in that regards?
Well, I think we abandoned nation building since 1962, 1963. And that is why today, there is hardly any public discourse in Nigeria, even at the most strategic level, that is not colored with religion, with ethnicity. And the reason why that is so is because we do not see ourselves as Nigerians. We do not see Nigeria as a project. And we do not see ourselves as part of the building blocks to complete that project. You will hardly hear in the private sector, for instance. Yes, you may hear harsh tones when people don't have access to certain things. They may say, it's because I'm from this place, it's because it's close to the chairman and the rest of it. But it's never elevated to a culture in the organization. Why? Because everybody is focusing on a prize. It's like a football game. The job of a goalkeeper really in a football game is to stop the ball from getting into his own net. But he knows that even if he does that successfully and the team doesn't score, they don't win the match.
Please let me interrupt you to take Okorafu's call from AROCHUKWU. So this second half is for the callers. So I'm going to have to do a lot of interruption. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning, Mr. Good morning, Mr. Emi, and good morning, Mr. Mitchell. Good morning. Compliments of the season.
Good morning.
To you, sir.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Nigerian government, you're talking about 2020 agenda, 2020. Nigerian government, when we talk about Nigerian, we're talking about the local government, the state, and the federal government themselves should do the needful. We are talking about the workers. You see, 30,000 that was promised is it last year, March, up to date. Some have started paying, some have paid. 90% have just solidarily with some committee do this. Is that how we are going to do the agenda? Very soon, Nigeria will clock 60 years. As for pensioners, many of them, some have not collected like my father's case. My father have not collected pension for the past 18 months. They send it to my elders, even to my sister. Is that what? And we end up recycling of top officers based on man no man, based on trapper sentiment, based on. Is that how we are going to move down for 2020? Now, if we want to move ahead, we should say bye-bye to all these ideologies and look for people that are talented, people that are that are the they have the zeal of this country to do it with the little grant of their blood. Now let's look at our educational system. You see what is happening now? The federal government and the ASU integrated issue. What is happening? No answer for now. It's just question mark. Very soon now, nobody knows what will happen when the student will do from one day. Whether the ASU will come back with their own students and say that they are going on strike. Now, what are they doing now? They are drawing our educational sectors backward. At the end of the day, we end up producing half-baked graduates. When we produce half-baked graduates, it is the society, it is the country that is suffering. You employ a staff with 10th degree, first class this, I'm not coming, come back to the office, you will just see that be looking like morose. But somebody who went and did this technical skill, something that will be doing better than the graduate who spent 5 years, 7 years, 8 years with doctorate and doctor name them. So is that what you are doing? That is to say, education is the key.
All right.
If we cannot get the basis and put it in normal before going to university level, we are wasting our time. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day. Please, my regards to Oga Yuri and the family and Mr. Dipebi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much for your contribution. Very important contribution that is made there. So, ASU was on strike for 3 months in 2019. And you recall that at the point where we begin to complain about unemployment is also the point where we began to produce half-baked graduates, like he rightly mentioned. So there are people who have gone to school now, but then you ask them, you interact with them, and you find out that they cannot actually fit perfectly into the society vis-a-vis what they have learnt in school. So I'm beginning to look at, you were talking about, you were giving us the analogy of the goalkeeper and the team. To what?
you see,
how do we get out of this?
Let me say this. The typical Nigerian, I won't say average, the typical Nigerian really doesn't see himself as important to the system, that he can do anything to positively affect the system. But at the end of the day, inadvertently, we negatively affect the system. Now, the goalkeeper thing I'm talking about, back then, when a goalkeeper catches the ball, he just bounces it and kicks it. That time will go and rush for the ball. But today, every goalkeeper is looking at scoring. And then you find goalkeepers going into the opposition
in some cases, yes.
area, in some cases now, if they are in search of a goal, to assist the attack to score. And there are many times you see a goalkeeper providing assists in modern day football.
Especially towards the end of the game.
Yes. It is because everybody, do you know, all those players, many of them have personal beefs before they get onto the field. But the moment they are on the field, they are looking at the team. And that is why many times when they score, they point to the badge of the club. We've done it for this. Not for their names as individuals, but here, if we can get to that level.
That's all right.
You mentioned about the university system. How many professors in Nigeria today got into the university system because they wanted to impart knowledge and develop students?
Agbola from Ilorin, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Happy New Year to you. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, good morning. I just want to contribute concerning the poor outcome we actually get from the workers in the public sector. On my own view, I just feel that the problem is multifactorial. Even it's not only about the remuneration. The way those workers are selected, they are not selected based on the merit. Most of them, they are just selected based on who knows who. And you have to consider also those workers are not being monitored. Some who will just do anything they like without no rules and regulations, no effective rules and regulations in which that even govern those organizations. You can go to some of the agencies, you will not see anybody even before 12 o'clock, and nothing will be done. And most of those things cannot be done in the public, in the private sector, because they have a good rule and regulations. Someone cannot just be acting and work without being notify anybody. Or you see all these things in the public sectors.
I think you made your point, Agbola. Thank you very much for calling in and making that contribution. So I understand that there's nothing we can do about immigration, people leaving Nigeria to other countries. But then what happens when we begin to lose our brightest minds? The medical sector is complaining. I cannot count in my fingers the number of my colleagues who are doing very well, who have, checked out. Many of them who are also planning to do so. Unlike before, people leave Nigeria, to study with the intention of coming back. These days, the intent is different. People leave with no intention of coming back. And then maybe the best they do is send in money. So they say, oh, there are billions of dollars that are being repatriated back home. What is the implication of this on this concept of nation building?
So I will still stay on what I've been talking about since the beginning. If you buy a property for something that is less, you treat it anyhow. If you have a phone and you feel, oh, I bought it for 4,000 naira, it could drop. But if you bought a phone for 250, there's a way you hold on to that phone. You're careful. Most cases, they don't fall. Why? Now, so we have a system where all of us had said to ourselves, oh, civil servants, they will never give us any results. So let's treat them anyhow. Those are things we need to stop. If we really want to build a nation, like he said, let's create other areas of giving people employment. But when we talk about civil servant, we're talking about a crack team. People who must deliver. This is my vision, this is where we're going, and this is the way we're going to work. So you're not thinking of what you're going to eat or where you're going to live or how you're going to send your kids to school. You're thinking about the results because I'm taking care of that. So if you want to do business, I'll give you light, I'll give you that. But these guys who are going to work with me, El Rufai, when he was given BPE, brought in a team in there, and the guys who worked directly with him were his own team, and that was the way they were crack teams. The only way to deliver this is, in the short term, get a crack team. There's no reason, look, nobody likes to collect bribe. I tell people all the time, it's demeaning. It is not fine for you to be hiding to collect money. Put the money on the table on their salary. Let them be able to get it as something they can show off. Our directors, our DGs,
I don't think
tell
that
the world what they collect.
Those who take bribe on our roads have any pride again. They take it with so much dignity and a sense of purpose. So
that is where we have taken them to, and we should take them back away from there.
Let us take this conversation to Kaduna. Ahmed Rufai, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good morning. Go ahead with the contribution, please.
Good morning, everybody at the studio.
Good morning.
Yeah. I think your guests have already said it. Where we have the problem is not about writing the vision or putting the yes. As Faye said, is the vehicle that will convey the vision to where it's supposed to go that matters. That's the people that will work for the vision to be actualized. We lack sincerity of purpose mostly in all our doing. Both the public sector, when you come to the civil servant, you look at the people in the office. When you look at their faces and the way they are working, you know that they are not working just because they want to achieve one central goal, that everybody is working towards that. No. You see them either they are working to just please the immediate Oga in the office. And the immediate Oga in the office is the one making the decision. But at the end of the day, you see that the work is not going towards the development of what we are looking for in the nation. So that lack of sincerity or purpose is in our mindset. And until everybody agree that you have something to contribute towards the development, that is where I think we will get it right.
Thank you, Ahmed, for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
So it's a very interesting development that we have here. But Mr. President says the new year is full of hope, optimism, and fresh opportunities. He has called it a decade of prosperity. And we're very religious people in this part of the world, so we'll all say amen to that. We would require some level of optimism not only on the part of leadership, but on the part of the people, there doesn't seem to be much of that. So you meet the average Nigerian and he tells you, I don't care what they're doing up there. I mean, I provide power for myself. I generate this for myself. So that sense of, what do they call it now, patriotism, isn't really there as it used to. How do we begin to bridge this gap in the new year?
Well, I think first and foremost, and most critical, Mr. DM already mentioned it. Let us have leadership by example at all levels. Then let us also be creative. Let our leaders be creative. You see, if we are doing the same thing all the time, even with the best of intentions, we will not get a different result. We'll get the same result. Let me give a typical example. You had His Excellency on this studio sometime last week. And both the Deputy Governor, he talked about, the rail line, the blue line, which Lagos State is constructing. How much of input do the local governments have in that project? I'm just using it as a metaphor to show that once there is commonality of direction, it will be easier to get things done. You will discover that in Nigeria, in the same state, the state government is talking about one XYZ, and then you can't see where the local government fit into it. Yet, there is a cost center, to the finances of the state. So we need to be creative. In Georgia was more corrupt and more disorganized than Nigeria, a former Soviet republic. But they had a prime minister who took the bull by the horn and said, guys, I am going to scrap the traffic police because we have traffic police, yet we have traffic bottlenecks everywhere. He scrapped the traffic police, and for 6 months, traffic reduced because the people took responsibility. Secondly, he said, I'm going to wipe out corruption. If you want to start a business and you need approval from 3 agencies, I want to run one government. Yes, I won't scrap the agencies. Drop the thing at one of the agencies. It is the duty of that agency to ensure that it goes to the other places, and there is a time frame by which it will come. If you don't get an approval after 2 weeks, for instance, it means it is yes. That was where the concept
we have to go down.
Silence means consent came from.
Do we have Ambrose there from Ikorodu? Ambrose, are you still there?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, you're our last caller for today. You have just 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, the problem we have in this country is that our system, one, is not working. We have a lot of people traveling out, even our government officials traveling out to different countries, and you wonder what they go over there to do. By now, I feel maybe if you are out of this country for any reason, you should be back here to impute what you have learned. We have China, we have US and other countries to mention, which have been developed to the point in which they are, and the manual is there. But yet it's difficult for us to follow up. It's absurd. And you also check, in ministries, a lot of people don't work.
All right, Ambrose. I think you made your point. Thank you very much for calling in. Gentlemen, we have to go now. So here, put the burden on leadership. In what word, what can the average Nigerian do differently this new year?
Leadership. You see, it is, for me, a case of cats and, what's that?
Egg, chicken and egg.
No, cat before the ox. So you cannot lead the leaders. The leader will lead the followers. It's as simple. The moment we get it right and you see sincerity, people, they will follow.
Gentlemen, it's a decade of prosperity. Say amen.
Amen.
Strategy and governance expert, thank you so much for coming. Sheyi Adeyemo is publisher, Inside Watch Africa, and also a public affairs analyst. I must say a big thank you for coming, and I wish you the very best this new year. Thank you very much. All right, so 2020 has kick-started in earnest, and we'll be back next week, God willing, with another exciting one. On behalf of Yori Folari and the entire production crew, we say a big thank you and God bless Nigeria.